Hello and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns podcast for today, December 14th, 2018. I'm Tom Luongo, and this one's going to be off the cuff. I'm just going to speak kind of extemporaneously to you today. I don't have a written article that I'm going to narrate or anything. I just want to chat with you for a few minutes. And I want to chat with you because I've been dealing with the changes that I see happening with President Trump. And I know it's really disquieting to a lot of you who've been following me for a while. And I thought it's probably time to just sit down and talk about it without recrimination, without getting angry in the moment or whatever. I'm going to remind everybody of where I've been for the last 2.5, almost 3 years now, because it's very important. Remember, I am a libertarian. I do not believe that politics is a solution to our problems. Politics is the cause of our problems. It always has been, always will be. Authoritarian systems of control, no matter who's running them, are inherently corrupt, corrupting, divisive, and counterproductive. And so remember that I didn't decide to vote for Donald Trump until the Sunday before the election, because normally I don't do so, right? I don't like to vote. I don't like to encourage politicians by voting for them, yay or nay, for or against them. If voting changed anything, they would have outlawed it years ago. And if anything has made that maxim more true than ever before, it's been watching the last 2 years of the American political establishment deal with Donald Trump. So I have sympathy for Donald Trump where he is. I do. I want to see him succeed. I want to see him make America great again. I don't think he will. And that pains me to say. I don't like saying it, but it's not going to happen. Or at least I put very long odds on it happening. And it is my job to tell you that when I see that happen. Now that can be construed, and it certainly has been construed by many people who follow me, who feel that I'm unwilling to commit to one side or the other. You're right, I won't commit to it being a cult of Donald Trump. I've always said that. I resisted that from the very beginning. It has cost me subscribers. It's cost me followers. I've refused to blindly follow the path of the orange Jesus. I'm the one who coined the term, and it's now out in the zeitgeist. So this is where we are. I've always been this guy. I've always had reservations about Donald Trump for a variety of reasons, and I've done my very best to keep a balanced view of the man, his shortcomings, his positive qualities, what I think his both his shortcomings and his positive qualities, how they could work for us, how they could work against us. And at times I've been right about these things, and at times I've been wrong. And as his foreign policy has emerged over the last 6 months, since the Helsinki summit with Putin, 5 months, it has become very clear to me that there's little hope that he's either one, in charge of anything, or two, that it's very credible, that you have to make the very credible assessment that he's actually welcoming all of this, that he wasn't forced to take on John Bolton, that he took on John Bolton willingly, that he hired Mike Pompeo willingly, that these are the people that he actually wants in his administration. Trump hasn't been seduced by the neocons. He always has been a neocon. He's just been a neocon that thought, well, maybe we could remake the empire in a different image. Because the underlying principles, the underlying philosophical drive of the neocons is to make a better world. That's what they think they're doing. The villain always thinks that they've got the right answers. John Bolton thinks he's right. Mike Pompeo thinks he's right. George H.W. Bush thought he was right. Paul Wolfowitz thought he was right. Condi Rice thought she was right. Hillary Clinton thinks she's right. Do you see a pattern here? So when assessing who Donald Trump is, we have to assess him by his actions and not by some of his instincts, which at times have been correct. Bring the troops home. Get us out of Syria. Get us out of Afghanistan. The Iraq War was a mistake. All of these things. But he hasn't been able to deliver on any of them. And you can't drain the swamp without ending the empire, because the empire is the swamp, as David Stockman put it recently. And he's right. I've been quoting Stockman a lot recently because he and I have been conversing behind the scenes, and I've been reading a lot of his work, and it's hard for me not to be convinced by what he's saying. Now, when it comes to international finance and whatnot, that's not Stockman's bailiwick, and therefore He's looking at things from a domestic perspective. He's looking at Trump's fiscal policy from a domestic perspective, and well, he should be. That's his area of expertise. Man did run the OMB under Ronald Reagan, after all. So he understands what's happening here. I would be a fool not to listen to it. And so would you. And when you're wrong, it takes a big man to admit that you've been wrong about things. And I was a little wrong about Donald Trump, if not a lot wrong. I thought he had something else going on here. We're a long ways away from us theorizing that he was going to work with Julian Assange and Steve Bannon and Dana Rohrabacher to get Assange out of prison and the Ecuadorian embassy and indict Hillary and the whole 9 yards. It's not happening, folks. If Hillary Clinton gets indicted or sent to prison, it'll be as the only scalp Donald Trump gets in his administration if he refuses to leave office. Because right now they're setting him up to be impeached or to be disgraced in shame or just to, not be reelected in 2020. I just saw Adam Schiff talking to, I don't know, MSNBC or CNN or whatever, talking about how we need to revisit the statute, Congress's rule that you can't indict a sitting president. And he was smirking at the camera the entire time saying, by the way, that's what we're going to do. Because he's confident. He's confident he can get it done. Trump has made a mess of himself. He didn't understand how Washington worked well enough to understand that he should have fired Mueller ages ago. Should shut it down. Taken the consequences. Doesn't realize that he has to give his base something on a regular basis. And right now, the deep state around him is refusing to give him any wins on anything whatsoever. Every day they are ratcheting up the pressure on him. Every day they are making him look worse and worse and worse. And they're not even having to out themselves in the process anymore. His use to us as that guy is over. We already know. Everybody already knows. And here's the sad truth, guys. They don't care. And if we're going to be emotionally balanced and move forward and figure out what it is that we want to achieve from this as the liberty movement or the freedom movement or whatever, what are we advertising? What positions are we going to put forth? That Donald Trump is still our champion? This guy can't leave the White House without John Bolton's permission anymore. The best he can do is set up a stunt with Schumer and Pelosi in the White House with cameras. This is stuff he should have done 2 years ago. Doesn't have the chops, boys. I wish he did. I really do. I really wish he did. And I don't envy him the position that he's in. And I'm willing to give him my support if he's willing to give me his support. And he's not doing that right now. He's not working on any one thing that I want him to work on, that I voted for him for. It's not a cult. We don't just get to continue to give him a pass every day and say, well, he's not Hillary. Fine. That was 2016. It's 2019, and I'm ready for something better. I keep waiting for when it's going to get good, and it's not. Vladimir Putin's done with him, and Putin gave him two full years of excuses. And if Putin's done with him, guys, you should be too. Because the only way Donald Trump is going to show any amount of spine whatsoever is when his base abandons him. Because he wants to be liked. No one in Washington likes him. If his base no longer likes him, if his approval rating starts to drop a little bit, Trump will go right back to pushing for more North Korean peace or whatever it is that he thinks is going to get him his approval numbers up. He's tied his approval rating to the stock market rising. He's complaining to the Fed to stop raising interest rates when that's exactly what needs to be done. Even though I hate the Federal Reserve, even though I want to see it go away, Trump's not willing to fight the Federal Reserve. He wants to take it over. He wants it to be the ECB, go to negative interest rates, so that we can have, thinking like a real estate developer, he can have a zero cost of capital in order to fund big projects and make America great again. It doesn't work that way, Don. That's what's gotten us into this trouble. As Stockman keeps pointing out over and over again, we've run a cumulative budget deficit since August 15th, 1971, when we went off the gold standard, of roughly $22 trillion. Is that not a number you've heard recently? Because that's what the federal debt is about to breach. That's the limit the federal debt is about to breach. Guess what? All the monetarist egghead theories about currencies balancing the balance of trade and all this stuff doesn't work when the foreign central banks buy up all the excess dollars, stick them on their balance sheets, and effectively monetize the deficits. And we can continue to run deficit after deficit after deficit because they're all sitting on, because $6.3 trillion of them are sitting on foreign central bank balance sheets. collecting a couple $100 billion in interest every year, while they continue to devalue their currencies, and the wage gap between us and China and us and India continues unabated. Trump's tax cuts, I'm all for them. Always for a tax cut. Doesn't matter what it is. You're cutting taxes, good. I don't care what it is. Cut taxes. Good. Taxes are theft. Done. That's the knee-jerk reaction. The reality is, if you don't cut taxes and rein in the Fed spending, or rein in or allow the Fed to tighten liquidity and actually go through a credit deflation, which needs to happen, then what's the point? Because the reason that you cut the corporate tax rate and you cut all these other aspects of in the tax plan, in the guts of the tax plan, all that money is going to go to companies and to stockholders and to effectively the 1%. The left is going to crucify on this when the numbers start coming in. They're already here. It's done because you didn't kill the Fed too. You didn't attack the Fed. Now that's a bigger problem than even Donald Trump can handle, right? Donald Trump came into office wanting to slay and cleave all the Gordian knots of geopolitics and domestic politics. All he's done is made them tighter. And that's the sad truth about Donald Trump. I wish it were otherwise.